They put rocks in her mouth and they held her down and essayed her in a community garden. Parents, this is another life lesson video on how to teach our children to stand up for what's right, even when it feels hard. I'm also going to give tips on how to teach your kids how to treat people with fairness and kindness, because with these kind of stories, that's exactly what this world needs. So a young girl, 12 years old, was walking home from her friend's house and she encountered 4 boys. The news media mentions 3 because the 4th one, I'll tell you about him a little later. But she's walking home, minding her own business, and she's grabbed by a 13-year-old. He persists to take her into this garden as the other 2 followed. I believe the 4th one did not follow, but just kind of didn't do anything. He didn't intervene. As they're in this community garden, she's being essayed. She says it's for about 30 minutes. She's screaming. She's trying to, get free. And they put rocks in her mouth to subdue her from screaming. So eventually, as this horrendous act is going on, she hears her father calling her name. And the boys, when they hear it, they flee. The boys in this case were 12, 13, and I believe at the time, the last one was 14. He's now 15 because this did happen in 2025. They are now being charged as adults. The community some are split, like, oh, well, they're going to charge them as adults. Others are saying, go ahead and do what you need to do, but not the reason for this video. The reason for this video is to teach us some tips on how to start out right now helping our children so these types of situations can be decreased or ceased. The 4th boy I want to talk about, because those are going to be some tips that I want to help us with. The 4th boy decided that, hey, I didn't do anything, but the reason why I didn't intervene is because I was scared I was going to get beat up by my friends. So what I want us as parents to see is start raising your kids with confidence. Start raising them to know right from wrong immediately. So when they see something that's wrong, they can stand up for right. The problem is, in this day society, instead of us standing up for what's right, we go with the peer pressure. Us standing up for what's right, we just decide, it's not my business and I'm not going to mess with it. And that's not what we need. If that 4th boy, and I'm not blaming him, but if that 4th boy had the confidence enough to either say, hey, y'all, we shouldn't be doing this, or, hey, I'm not in this, and he ran to go get help, then this could have been either stopped, not as severe as it came off. Still, not blaming that kid, but we have to teach our kids to have confidence. Run away. Tell the person. Tell someone exactly what's going on. Another thing, which is number 1 to me, I think we need to teach our kids consent and boundaries for people. No means no, period. People have space bubbles, if that's what you want to call it. Give people space. Give people their boundaries. People have control over their own bodies. So if they say no, immediately stop. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no talking about it. Stop immediately when you hear the word no. Another thing I feel like we should teach our kids empathy frequently. Often we need to teach them that. We need to talk about feelings a lot more. A lot of people hide their feelings because we're not appropriately taught how to deal with our feelings and how to deal with certain behaviors. We need to teach our kids helping behaviors, because if we teach them how to help each other, then a lot of these things won't go on and it'll click in their mind and they won't even want to do a crime or anything like this. It wouldn't even pop in their mind if we taught them certain things early. We also need to start teaching our kids real life situations. Situations like this need to be talked about in age appropriate ways, of course. You can't sit down and talk to a 3 or 4-year-old about this situation specifically, but it can be age appropriate. Another thing, we cannot tolerate disrespect and bullying of any kind, any humiliation, any cruel jokes. We need to nip that in the bud. And we as parents also, we need to nip it in the bud for us and be examples of our children. A lot of times kids are being bullied, they're being picked on, and the teachers aren't doing anything, the parents aren't doing anything. We have to start nipping that in the bud, because once kids start bullying others and humiliating others, then they start getting a different kind of thought process, and these type of behaviors start to persist. We also need to teach accountability. Accountability in this world is major right now. We make excuses from our leaders on to parents, on to the teachers. We make excuses for everything instead of saying, you know what, that was my bad, I did that. You know what, I did that, that was my problem, I apologize. We blame our parents for stuff. We blame the systems for stuff. We blame everybody except ourselves. If we start teaching our kids young to say, you know what, you take 100% accountability on what you could control, then we'll have people that will start thinking very differently. We have to also teach our kids how to respect relationships. We also have to do that ourselves to follow by example. We need to definitely encourage positive peer groups. These trash friends need to be put in the trash. We have to tell our kids to hang around positive people. And if they can't find positive people, then you'll just have to be alone until you find the right friends, because we can no longer tolerate our kids hanging out with people who don't want to do better. Also, let your kids know that they can come to you with anything. A lot of times kids don't intervene in stuff. They don't tell us stuff because they don't feel confident enough that we will do something, or that we will intervene, or that they won't won't get in trouble. So let's start developing those relationships with our kids to let them know, like, hey, you can come and tell me anything. I also want to talk about some of the signs to watch out for with a kid that might actually head down some of these wrong directions. One thing that I've noticed is kids who are persistently cruel. If they are consistently cruel across borders, from their friends to their parents to teachers, they're cruel to animals and those kind of things. Those are behaviors that you need to watch out for. And a lot of times you may need to seek a professional. And don't be embarrassed. It's okay to get help. Another sign is a lack of remorse. A kid slaps somebody and then you see a little smirk, or they do something that you really can't explain that's extremely bizarre, and they're like, oh, well, yep, I did it. You have to watch out for those behaviors, especially if they're young and you start seeing that kind of creep up when they're in their teenage years. You might be headed for some trouble, and professional help, you need to seek that. Your kid has extreme aggression. A lot of times in children, yeah, you'll see it, but then when you start seeing it again as teenagers and all that, that extreme aggression can turn into a different type of mindset, and then behaviors like this can start coming up. So again, definitely pray over your kids. Definitely seek professional help. Any kind of help you can get when you start seeing these signs, make sure you get it. The last thing that I've seen is they're obsessed with domination and humiliation. Like, they have to have it. And once they get it, they dominate somebody or they humiliate somebody. They get this euphoria, or they feel just like, oh, I did it, and they have to get it again. Start praying. Start seeking some professional help. Start kind of helping them with these tips and these tools every single day when you see it, monthly, whenever. Teach the kids, hey, this is not what we're supposed to do. We don't humiliate people. People have feelings. So I just want to talk a little bit about some tips, because these stories are getting crazy, and we need to know where our children are. We need to know who they're hanging around, just to make the society better and make our children better. So I am Regina Long with Not So Perfect Parenting.